In this session, I'll discuss one of the important functions that happens in the human resource management. So there are a number of processes that tend to happen or functions that tend to happen in the human resource management practice. One of the functions, which is recruitment, and also other processes could be training, orientation, some staff members, performance management, grievance handling, and some of these things I've got YouTube videos on my YouTube channel. But in this session, I want to focus on one of the key functions, which is very critical. We can bring down an organization, but also can lead to success of an organization, which is the disciplinary management. So how do we manage disciplinary management within the organization? And in one of the courses that we offer as Change Consult Group, we offer what we call HR for Managers course. HR for Managers. So the HRs, they have to understand, no, people who are not in HR or who are not working as HRs, but these are line managers, could be production manager, could be sales manager, could be workshop supervisor manager, could be stores manager, the accountants, the procurement managers, the ICT managers, among other things, the auditor managers, and number of managers that we have in our organizations. But these might not have HR based practice. Even those in HR, sometimes they also enhance their knowledge. It's always important to attend a course which we call HR for Managers. This course is not HR for non-HR managers, because we also believe that there are also other HRs who can also benefit from the course. And also, by virtue of having them together, these HRs and also these non-HRs, they are together in one session. They will be able to share knowledge and experiences at the end of the day and appreciate what is supposed to be done when they are effectively managed. And I believe that 80 to 90% of HR work is always done by the line managers. The HR department, the HR division, the HR section, their role is to facilitate, they act as a secretariat. But if you look at recruitment, who is responsible for development of the job description? Who is responsible for interviews? Who is responsible for training needs? Who is responsible for orientation of staff? Who is responsible for performance appraisal? Who is responsible for grievance handling? You might find 80% of these processes, they are done by the non-HRs. These are the line managers, the technical staff members who are within the organizations, but they might not have an HR background, but they have to appreciate what HR is all about. So one of the critical functions, which is very, very important for us to appreciate, is also the disciplinary management. As I said earlier on, this is one of the important topics that we do when we are doing HR for Managers course as Change Consult Group. You can reach out to us at CCG at changeconsult.org. We can be able to share with you on how you can be able to effectively manage your human resource management functions as an organization. So when we talk about discipline, what are we talking about? So we can define it differently, but we just want to manage our employees so that they are able to conform to the norms and the policies of the organization. Their behavior is in line with the culture of the organization. So we look at to say the employees, how are they behaving within the organization? What measures can we put in place so that they are conforming to the norms, values of the organization? And everyone who does contrary to that should be regarded as a deviant. And we all know what should happen to deviants. They should be punished. They should be corrected. Some could be punished, some should be corrected. And there are key things which we should be able to appreciate, is that there are two processes for you to discipline or to handle your employees who have done any misconduct. One of the key things that you should be able to appreciate is one, preventive, and the other one is corrective. Preventive, the way you are managing. So as a line manager, you should be able to have an environment that is making your employees not to indulge in misbehaviors. You should have an environment that you should be able to control the misbehaviors of your employees before they have indulged into the misbehaviors. That's the preventive aspect. So one of the things that is very, very important for you to do is to prevent indiscipline to happen within the organization. And also at the same time, you can have a corrective measure. Corrective measure is now you can give a warning, you can give a punishment. But these processes have to be done only after a disciplinary hearing. So that is what is very, very important. And one thing I've observed over the years that I've been in practice as a HR, but then an administrator, as a manager, one of the things that I've observed is that managers sometimes are reluctant to partake in the activities of disciplinary process because they don't want to create animosity with their colleagues. They don't want to create enmity with their colleagues within the organization, or sometimes they like avoiding lawsuits. They don't want to be seen as if they are fighting their employees, and also at the same time for them to be witnesses, maybe at court and all that. They don't like such kind of a thing. Yeah. For example, even others just to say, no, you want you to be a witness in court. They are not willing to do that. Yeah, that's what also is also very, very important for. And for still for organizations that maybe they have got houses within the same compound. Yeah, you might find that some workplaces they have houses for staff within the compound, and they are like, no, that supervisor of mine who stays that house has done ABCD to me, so I've stopped talking to him, and you, my wife, or my spouse also should stop talking to them, something like that. Even at the church, they can't talk to each other even at the church just because of the workplace conflict that is there. But sometimes these things have to be treated as normal, but sometimes it takes a lot of challenges for people to appreciate, to say, no, you can be able to assist in one way or another, even in an event that at the workplace maybe there are issues going on in terms of discipline issues, and these things are just being done as a professional to ensure that best practices is adhered to. So these are some of the things which are very, very important for us to appreciate. And also we need to know that discipline is well taken care of in the Bible. If you read the Bible under Proverbs 29 verse I think 17, if not 27, it says, discipline your son, he will give you peace. Yeah, they're saying you should discipline your son, he'll give you peace. So look at your employees as your sons or as your children. So you should be able to discipline them if they have done any misdemeanor. And I have said discipline could take two forms, either preventive or corrective. Yeah. And also under Proverbs 23 verse 13, it says you should not withhold the Lord. Yeah. Lord. Yeah, should not withhold the Lord. Discipline a child. Yeah. Discipline your child. Because you should be able to discipline your child with the Lord, and he will not die. So whatever you are doing, you should be able to strike your child with the Lord, he will not die. So this is what we are trying to say. You're just trying to conform them so that they are good citizens for the organization. So these things are also biblical. So whether you're giving a warning, could be a suspension, you just want to teach them that they are not like too powerful within the organization, but also they should come to their senses in terms of what they are doing, that what they are doing was not in light of their laws, the policies of the organization, the norms, the culture of the organization. So yeah, now there is a misconduct. What should we do? Yeah, could be theft, could be any other kind of misconduct, could be sexual harassment and other things. Yeah, whenever these things could be issues which are covered in the terms and conditions of service as misconducts, or sometimes they might be outside the terms and conditions of service. But after weighing the options, you have noted that this is a serious misconduct. Yeah, because the terms and conditions service maybe cannot be exhaustive in terms of all the offenses. Yeah, so you can indicate to say in the terms and conditions service. As I said earlier on, to say in another session I was talking about, to say change consulting group can also support you to develop sensitive terms and conditions of service. So you can say maybe amongst the other offenses which can happen anytime within the organization. So these are some of the important things that you should do. So when you see that there is some kind of a misconduct, what you need to do first is to ensure that the employee who has indulged in the misconduct, could be a group or one individual, they should produce a report. Very, very important. They should be able to, we can light them to produce a report. And also the supervisor, could be the CEO as a supervisor, could be the finance director as a supervisor, could be the workshop supervisor, should produce a report of what transpired and what are the key issues, what is the nature of the offense and why they feel it's an offense. Would be the company has lost some items. You should be able to state the values. Could be someone maybe behaved because he was drunk. You should be able to have evidence to say, how did you capture to say this person was drunk? Could have breathalyzers within the organization. So these are some of the important things that you should be able to have on record. So when you are doing the report, at least the necessary records should also be provided by the supervisor who is reporting. Yeah, it could be a tip of anonymous that is coming. So after doing all those reviews, whether it's a tip of anonymous or it's a report from the supervisor, or maybe you have seen it happening, what is supposed to be done is to review. Yeah, to review, maybe it would be management or maybe a team can review the issue at hand to say, is there any really an offense that has been committed? So when it has been reviewed, and when they are reviewing, they are trying to say, should we proceed with a disciplinary hearing, or maybe we can just give a verbal warning, or maybe we can just maybe carry out a certain action on these employees or this employee. So the review, we can withdraw this particular issue to say, no, we asked you to write a report, but we have noted that you did nothing wrong. Or some would be withdrawn from the case, and you can maintain others whom you feel are wrong, or they are perceived to be wrong, or they are alleged to have committed an offense. That is very, very important. And when at this stage you have not yet concluded to say this one is wrong, it's just allegation. So you should also be able to say it's being alleged that you did ABCD. Yeah. So when you see that maybe the issue requires someone to be sent on suspension because you feel to say you cannot investigate properly further while the employee is at the job. So what is important for you to do is to suspend the employee, and the suspension shouldn't be for so long. Yeah, this is one of the errors that we do as an organization. You find that the employees would be suspended for life. Yeah, but what is important for us to appreciate is to say you can suspend for a period. To say no, we're assuming to say suspension, we're suspending you maybe for, you cannot set even the period, but make sure that it's not that long, because during suspension, this employee, you're supposed to pay him. So there's nothing like you can do suspension on half pay. Of course, we hear of interdictions on half pay, on interdictions on half pay. That is wrong. Yeah, you cannot suspend or interdict someone based on interdiction. Just like suspension, just another way of naming suspension. So when you are to interdict or suspend an employee, you are doing it for a purpose. And what is that purpose? To investigate. And now, an employee has committed an offense, and you have all the information to say this employee really has committed the offense. Why should we suspend that employee? Why should we suspend that employee? Yeah. So suspension should be done for sake of investigations. And sometimes, of course, sometimes you can do it to protect loss of further information. Yeah, maybe you feel to say, no, we're not be able to work with this person because is a threat to the organization. Then you can suspend. But when you have done that, if you have got all the information, you should expedite the process of doing the disciplinary hearing. But don't just, when an employee has committed an offense, don't just write that person to say you are dismissed or you are terminated. We see this in newspapers, on radios, on TV, in courts. A lot of people are dismissed. If cases, or employee was dismissed, there was no hearing. Was terminated, there was no hearing. What is key important is, whatever you do, make sure that there is a disciplinary hearing. Or if you are satisfied during suspension to say, no, I think this case, this employee we feel didn't commit the offense, then you can withdraw the case from that employee and maybe apologize to the employee, and he continues working for the organization. That is very, very important for us to appreciate within the organization. So it's also very, very important to say during suspension, what should happen during suspension? Investigations should be happening. Not like you are suspending an employee and you're just staying idle without even communicating. Because some employees would get an injunction and come back to work. Because there's nothing that you are doing. There's nothing that you are doing. And there was a ruling for public service, I think, from Attorney General, a communication from Attorney General advising, that was around, I think, 2021, advising public servants or public officers of the need not to suspend employees without pay, not to suspend employees without pay. All suspensions should be with pay. There are also some court judgments which have determined to say suspensions should be with pay. That's what is very, very important. Because you should feel the pain as an employer that I'm paying a lot of money to this employee. So that will make you expedite the case so that the case should come to fruition within a short period of time. So that's what is very, very key. And also at the same time, there is also an issue to say, for example, if an employee, the issue is very, you look at to say, looks criminal, maybe has committed an offense. No, let's appreciate that there is an administrative process and also the judicial process. So you can take this particular issue to police. You can take this particular issue to police, and the police are going to handle that particular issue and maybe take the person to court and all that, maybe through your lawyers and all that, you can be able to go do that. But as that process is undergoing, you don't have to wait for that case, because that case can take long, and this employee will still continue to be your employee, and maybe you can be out on bail, and he says, I want to go back to office, but you should start your own process. So you can suspend that particular employee and proceed to call. While he is on either police bail, you can still proceed to call for a disciplinary hearing, and you'll be able to do your administrative process up to a point where you have dismissed even before the conclusion of the court case. So that's what is very, very important for us also to appreciate, to say the administrative process is different, and also there are court judgments which have been dealt with this issue before, and they have guided accordingly to say it's always important that to distinguish between the judicial process and the administrative process. So when the employee has been suspended, you could go and investigate, ask him to explain some other things, then you can call that employee to a disciplinary. As I said earlier on, if there's no case, you can withdraw the case from him and maybe apologize to the employee. But if you feel there's a case, you can now call that particular employee to a disciplinary hearing. So what is important for us to appreciate is to say composition of a disciplinary hearing. Who should it be? We shouldn't have like an already made disciplinary committee. Let's have a disciplinary committee that is established per case. Ad hoc, we say ad hoc committee, So ad hoc committee, you choose committee members to this committee based on the issue at hand, to say no, because sometimes you might find that maybe it's an ICT related issue, and you have people there, just like interviews, you have an issue which is ICT related, and the people who doesn't understand the ICT issues, they're there and they're like questioning things which even the person who is being interrogated is like, what are these people thinking? Do they have heads? So you should have people who are knowledgeable to the case at hand, and who I would know that this is wrong, this is right, and this is the right way of doing things. If it's an accounting thing, you should be able to have people who are able to know accounting, or otherwise, if they are not knowledgeable, they can be oriented, assuming that they will be able to catch up and understand the case at hand. That's what is very, very important, because they'll be asking questions which are useless within the disciplinary process. So it's always important to have an handle committee to do the disciplinary hearing. So after doing the disciplinary hearing, during the disciplinary hearing, you can bring witnesses. The employer can bring witnesses. The employee can also be allowed to bring witnesses. If it's a unionized organization, you can have a member of a union to also to be an observer during the disciplinary process, which is very, very important to look at to say it's fair, and maybe during the disciplinary process, there's no need for you to bring lawyers, because just between the organization and the employer. Of course, sometimes it's a challenge when you have lawyers within the company and the lawyers are part of the disciplinary panel. It's always important to also advise them that they're not there as lawyers, but they're there as employees of the organization, so that they are able to, they should handle it not as a court process, but it's a administrative process that has to happen there. So it's also very, very important for us to appreciate. And some employees would not appear before a disciplinary hearing. It's always important to have it on record. When an employee has been communicated to say, or has been given an invitation, all the allegations should be provided in the kind of in that letter. So all the allegations, the dates, the terms and conditions of service, the policies, the important documentation for the case, anything, video footages and all that should be provided to say we feel with this regard we feel to say it's alleged that you committed this offense on such a date. So you are able to state what happened, and maybe you can also make a reference to the terms and conditions of service, how it is bad for the organization and all that. So the person we are inviting to the disciplinary hearing. So make sure this letter, when it has been delivered to the employee has to acknowledge receipt by either signing. If it's an email, should be able to acknowledge by email to say I've received the email, something like that. But when you have sent that, then you can set maybe a period of 5 days, 5 working days, because there's no law to say from the date you have communicated to the date of disciplinary hearing how many days should be there, but you can set maybe a minimum of 5 days. So when you have done that, the employee can say, no, maybe on this particular day I'm not I'm sick, I will not be able to manage to come. If the reason, you can give an excuse. If the reason is valid to according to management, then you can reschedule the interview to another date. And also at the same time, another important thing that you should be able to appreciate is that during the disciplinary hearing, it's always important to be impartial. Try as much as possible to be welcoming to the employees. So allow the employee to explain, allow the witnesses to explain. Don't be judgmental, don't be emotional. Handle it as professional as possible. And when you have done that, you can do your interview report with a recommendation. Of course, others would say you should do the minutes, but sometimes you can just do the disciplinary report or the minutes, and the chair and the committee members of that panel have to sign the minutes. Others would argue to say the employee also has to sign, but I don't know. Maybe, it's all about different schools of thought. For me, I wouldn't buy that to say the alleged offender has to sign, because what if it's not an agreement? So it's like, no, you have to change this, you have to change this, you have to change this, because you cannot sign something that is not comfortable with. So you are against that person, you write a report and you let your members of the panel to sign. Once they have signed, it's submitted to the CEO or to the controller and even of the organization. And sometimes, even if it's a new position, you can set up one ad hoc board meeting to discuss the issue at hand. to discuss and make a decision, or to adopt the recommendation that has been made by the disciplinary committee, because whatever has been made is a recommendation. But what is important for us to appreciate is that the disciplinary, once the disciplinary committee has made a decision, the CEO, management, or the board has no powers to make a contrary decision. If it's a dismissal, it's a dismissal. If it's a warning, it's a warning. Yeah, maybe if you have recommended for a dismissal, then the management or board will say, no, let's give you maybe a warning. That's okay. But anything to the disadvantage of the employee, for example, the disciplinary committee has said the employee has to be given a warning, and now the management is making a decision to say he has to be dismissed, then that's wrong, because it's only those people who were part of the decision making within the organization who should be able to make such kind of a decision, and not someone who is outside the organization, who was not part and parcel of the disciplinary process or the disciplinary hearing. So that's what is very, very important. Disciplinary decisions should be made by the disciplinary panel. That's what is very, very important. And some of the important things also to appreciate that is that the disciplinary committee can recommend a number of decisions. Could be written warning, could be a demotion, could be suspension. Yeah, suspension without pay as punishment now. When the government will say suspension at half pay or suspension without pay, yeah. So that's also what a punishment, or a demotion, even a transfer, yeah. You can recommend a transfer. You can recommend early retirement, yeah. You can recommend early retirement. You can recommend even restitution of property, of lost property. Yes, to the Employment Act allows that for the employee to pay, maybe for the damages, yeah, and also even termination of employment. You can also recommend for termination of employment, even summary dismissal, yeah, which is the worst scenario, yeah. So those are some of the decisions that the disciplinary committee can recommend, depending on the magnitude of the offense. Depending on the magnitude of the offense, and also the findings that have been found that the employee was wrong on, and also depending on the disciplinary history of the employee, how has he behaved in previous years. So that's what is very, very important for us to appreciate. But there are certain things that you should also be able to appreciate within the disciplinary process. There are certain decisions people would feel constructively he has been dismissed. Yeah, these are situations where maybe the employee was not being supported in one way or another, and his performance, maybe he's an ICT person, but was not given a computer or a laptop. So some employees would say, no, I was constructively dismissed because you provided an environment which is like you have already fired this particular person. So people would file constructive dismissals. Yeah, but also sometimes employees, you should be able to give them room for appeal. Yeah, so whenever decisions are being made, they can be able to appeal. Could be appealing to the management, could be appealing to the. That's why the CEO shouldn't be the one to make the decision. Can just be communicating the decision of the disciplinary panel. So even the writing should be to say the disciplinary committee has made this decision. So appeal, the CEO can appeal. Yeah, you can appeal to the CEO or even to the board. If all these have failed, the employee has got the right to complain to the nearest labor office. That's what the Employment Act provides. Can complain to the nearest labor office. After that, if the case is not settled after mediation, there is no settlement of the case, then the employee can also complain at the Industrial Relations Court. If he is not satisfied with the Industrial Relations Court decision, considering nowadays it's no longer a panel at the Industrial Relations Court, it's just maybe the chairperson or the deputy chairperson, lawyers could be there nowadays, and the case can be, a judgment can be made from there. If he's not satisfied, he can go to High Court. If he's not satisfied, he can go up to Supreme Court. Yeah, so he's right to complain outside the organization after exhausting the internal complaints mechanism, which is very, very important for us also to appreciate. So whenever there are complaints, it could be even complaints, whether it's a warning, a transfer, can complain within, yeah. Of course, some people even can say you can even sue outside the organization, yeah, but it creates a lot of enmities. But it's your right, you can still complain. Employees have got the right to complain, even for decisions which have not affected them, but to an extent of a dismissal. Could be a warning, could be early retirement, could be transfers, yeah, they can still, or demotions, they can still complain. So they have got that right under the grievance procedure of an organization. That's why it's important also to have grievance procedures on how you can be able to raise complaints. So what is important for us to say, following the law is very, very important. So organizations should have conditions of service which are in light of the law, because sometimes you might find you have followed your terms and conditions of service, but the terms and conditions of service are not in line with the law. So you should be able to check to say that your terms and conditions of service are in line with the law. So whatever you're doing it in line with the law. Very, very important. And also you should have a disciplinary policy. How do you manage your disciplinary processes within the organization? So you should have a disciplinary policy that is going to guide you on how you should manage disciplinary processes within the organization. And this also should be in line with the labor laws, like the Employment Act. And also at the same time, we should have a grievance policies on how you are going to manage grievances. Yeah, these are the grievances I'm talking about, whereby they can appeal and all that. Those are like grievances. How do you manage that to ensure that they are able to complain somewhere? So these are some of the very important things that you should also be mindful when you are managing disciplinary process. But the process is very long and also time consuming, but if you do it better, you might find that you have less litigations, because at the end of the day, you should be able to say justice was provided and the employee was given the right to be heard. As I said earlier on, don't ever terminate an employee or dismiss an employee without a disciplinary hearing, or don't make decisions before a disciplinary hearing. The purpose of a disciplinary hearing is to find out what really happened and make a decision by the findings in the disciplinary hearing. And the decisions should not be made by someone who was outside the disciplinary hearing. If you wanted that person to be part and parcel of the disciplinary hearing, then make that person to be part and parcel of the disciplinary hearing. But decisions should be made by the disciplinary hearing. Very, very important. And also at the same time, you should be able to relate to say the magnitude of the offense. Is it in line with the punishment that we have provided to the employee? Very, very important. Yeah, very, very important. And also sometimes you can also look at to say the precedence, to say if someone had committed a similar offense, how did we treat that particular person? Because at the end of the day, I think Section 5 of the Employment Act talks about discrimination and fairness. To say how fair are you to this particular person? Equity, yeah, internal equity, to ensure that you are treating employees equally. So if someone was dismissed by a certain offense or just given a warning, you are setting a precedent to say onwards also have to be giving warnings for such kind of offenses. Discipline is not a complex issue. You can manage it better. If you have problems how to manage disciplinary issues, you can consult group to support you to develop a policy that is going to support you in your organization, and you're going to have effective disciplinary management processes. Thank you for watching.